from a scientific standpoint, what comes to mind with why these are so, valuable to you, not to you, but to all of us? Can you hit on that?
Name a company you admire. Just name a company you admire.
HP.
Hewlett Packard?
Yes.
Got it. Why?
Um,
And I hope everybody listening is doing the same. I'm not doing this just to fill time. I'm going to make a point.
sure. Yeah. I think fundamentally I'm familiar with the HP way, and that there is that value set, and I agree with it. And I think that it's, historically created a culture that's very successful in a number of ways, not just from a financial standpoint.
Let me tell you why I start there. We often start talking about leadership from an inside out. Who am I? What am I? What am I trying to do? When we work with leadership, we often another book that may be on the bottom of your list. Let me see if I can work my way up the Peloton. It's called Leadership Brand. Define effective leadership not by what we know, but by what our customers need to know. So I think of HP, and you say, I'm going to buy an HP product because I trust their values. They're reliable, they're innovative, they're good. And you begin to lay out what are those values that matter to me as a customer to buy their product. Walmart's going to be different. Walmart is efficient, they're low cost. I'm buying because of the products and services. Our view of leadership is when internal leaders have the behaviors that reflect external customer promises. Let me say that again. When internal leadership actions reflect external promises, the brand outside, then that leader is going to be more effective. So we love to say to leaders, who are you trying to serve? What is it they need from you? And do your internal leadership actions reflect those external promises? We call that the leadership brand. It says, for example, if I were at HP and they value customers who buy from HP value innovation, they value service. If I were looking at the HP leadership model that comes from the HP way, is that what their model shows? If I look at their training program, are they training against external items? We've actually argued ad agencies to put together ads for Nike, for Walmart, for Google, for Unilever, for any firm in the world. Those ad agencies should be connected to leadership development because they should be saying, we're going to spend $10 million, euros, whatever, on an ad campaign to say to the marketplace, this is what we want to be known for in the market. They had to spend 500,000, 5 to 10% on internal leadership development so that their leaders behave against those promises. We made that case. It hasn't worked for most of them, but I get frustrated when the internal leadership people don't connect the knowledge and skills in those 5 domains against the external customer promises, because that's where the sustainability and effectiveness ultimately comes from in a company.
Yeah, it's, am I hearing you right? It's integrity.
That's critical. That's critical. I mean, and the integrity means we live what we promise. I love to go to executives and I say, I'm going to talk about leadership or culture. You probably had this. And at first their eyes glaze over. Oh, here it is again. Some social goody. And I say, go to your customers, ask them 3 questions. Let's take the HP way. Number 1, are these the values you want us to have? Service, innovation, integrity. Generally, they'll say yes. Sometimes they'll say no. I was in one company, their number 1 value was to be the most profitable firm in their industry. Take that to a customer. They're going to go,
Right.
no, that doesn't work for me because you're going to overcharge. But yes, I agree with the values. Number 2, you, the customer, tell us what we need to do to live them better. What does service mean to you? What does innovation mean to you? What does integrity mean to you? What does collaboration mean to you? So the outside customer defines the behavior. Number 1, are these values meaningful to you? 2, how do we demonstrate them to you? And number 3, when we do that, will you buy more from us? And about that point, the executives say, hold it. You mean these values are meant to increase customer revenue? Of course. If your values don't create value for the customer, then they're the wrong values. And suddenly executives go, wow, you mean this culture is not some ethereal academic balderall? No. Will you buy more from us if we do these things that you say make us innovative? And if the answer is no, go back and start again. Because that's the spiral, not a cycle, that moves us forward. To me, that's the leadership brand. And then we're going to train leaders, we're going to develop leaders, we're going to hire leaders, we're going to pay leaders against the values that the customer finds valuable. I'm moving, the code is the basics, that's 60 to
Hmm.
70%,
Yeah.
75%. This is the differentiators. This is the stuff that we want to get, that we're known for. And good companies do that. They do that intuitively with people like you and perhaps people like me. We can begin to put those intuitive actions into a script that people can then learn from.
Yeah. I think you're right that on so many accounts, but right in this moment, in that, wow, a lot of companies, there is a disconnect between what they value and what the people they're trying to, this will sound, capitalize in a sense on value, right? And how do we correct that? Because right now in our society, since, and I'm blanking on the chap's name from the 70s, I think it was late 60s, 70s, who said shareholder return is the answer, right? There's so much focus on that the people that theoretically you're serving with your products or services aren't even a part of the equation a lot of times.
And that would be tragic. I mean, I think you change one letter in that shareholder return and make it stakeholder. The shareholder matters, no question. I mean, if we don't make money and survive economically, we're in trouble. But if all you do is serve the shareholders, you're going to make some really stupid decisions. I mean, you won't invest in development, you won't invest in R&D, you won't invest in the future. That's just silly. But stakeholder, how do I serve a shareholder? No question. How do I also serve a customer, a community? How do I serve an employee? How do I serve an executive? How do I serve the mix of stakeholders becomes an interesting paradox. Now, leadership, if it was easy, we wouldn't need 500 million books. Navigating that inherent tension and paradox becomes critical. Some firms overinvest in shareholder. That's going to create a problem. 'Cause and they don't exist much anymore because this is the private equity of the 90s. You buy a firm, you sell off all the assets, and it's gone. I mean, and that was a shareholder value, but it didn't create a successful firm. You got to manage stakeholders. You got to manage your customers. You got to manage your communities. You got to build that reputation. And the good firms do that. HP is a great example. HP is a great example. Started in 1958 in a garage with Hewlett and Packard. Has continued to reinvent itself. It's spun off Agilent. It's spun off other firms. But that HP way becomes a timeless value set that allows it to continue to adapt to the marketplace that it's in. And I think firms like HP have done that really, really nicely. And again, in the process, they made money. I'm not going to say this is all irrelevant because if you don't make money, you're not going to continue to exist. So, do you ever get an idea and you go, "How can I be so stupid that I didn't see it before?" I get that
Yeah.
periodically. The one that hit me this year, we love to look at financials, return on investment, revenue minus cost, profitability. Here's an insight. That's always a lag indicator. We never report next year's
Right.
financials. We report last month, last year.
Right.
And so what we want to do, if we're going to be good leaders, we want to be ahead of the lag indicator. So what is it that drives revenue? What is it that manages costs? How do I get ahead of that? Here's a blindingly obvious insight. Revenue only comes from a customer. I mean, that's the only
Yeah.
place I'm going to get revenue. And so for me, that leadership, if my leadership doesn't help a customer buy a product, it's not going to be useful. And so rather than get obsessed about, how can I predict last year's financial results? I don't want to predict last year's. I want to create next year's by getting ahead of the game by, we call it outside in, looking at
Mhm.
customers, looking at investors. One of the fascinating things with investors today, those who are smart, the correlation between earnings and stock price, often criteria, is really low. That about 70, well, it's all over the map, but 50 to 70% of market value is intangibles. Does an investor have confidence in the future of a company? Two companies have the same earnings. They don't have the same stock price or the cost of
Right.
capital, borrowing money. Why? Because investors have confidence in their future. Well, where's that confidence come from? Your quality of leadership. So if I can show an investor that our quality of leadership is better than our competitors, I'm then going to predict the lag indicator of business results. Don't obsess about business results. Obsess about that lead indicator. Okay, I've just thrown a whole bunch of stupid stuff in there. We've got a long time. What I hope people listening to this are getting, leadership is an art, not a science. There is science, there is research. You've
Mhm.
done research, I do research, but it's an exciting space to
Yeah.
really differentiate yourself, not just around the code, but around the brand and who you are and what you do to help others get better. I love where you were. Your purpose is to help others do, I wrote it down, to help others do great things.